Okay guys, I have a confession to make. I love to cook. My friends, and anyone who knows me, knows that I can't go more than a day without talking about my favorite dish to make when I'm home, my endless complaints about the dining hall food, or even the latest recipe I found online during hours of studying. The truth is, cooking has been a lifelong passion. It started from when I was a kid and continues through today. In fact, I'll never forget the first thing I ever made. It was my mom's birthday. I must have been 10. And I thought, I'm gonna surprise her. I'm gonna make a fried egg for breakfast. I remember waking up bright and early. I almost burnt myself putting the egg in the pan. And I remember I woke her up, walked up the stairs, and that look on her face, that stuck with me. That look of happiness, that look of pure delight. Cooking to me always represented an expression of emotion that words, art, movies could simply never do. But growing up, cooking took on a new meaning for me. I'm the proud son of 2 immigrants. My parents came to this country from India about 20 years ago. And growing up, I always felt this geographic divide between myself and my grandparents, my uncles and aunts, the rest of my family, who still live in India to this day. But with cooking and food, I found a way to be connected. Growing up, eating the same food that my parents had when they were kids, my grandparents still eat to this day, I felt connected. And I thought, in my own unique way, I'm partaking in my culture. I'm not losing something that I consider to be central to who I am and my identity. And I never thought much of it. I thought that was just who I am. That's just the way I want to live my life. And I used to bring my food to school every day, never thought much of it. But one day I realized not everyone viewed it with the same way that I did. It was 5th grade, and I remember I was sitting with a couple of friends eating lunch, and one of them stopped, and he looked at me, and he said, "What are you eating? Why does it look like that?" And I stopped. I had this smile on my face. I looked out and I told him, "Well, this is Indian food. My mom made it for me." And I thought that was that. But he kept saying it. He kept saying that. He kept saying, "It looks weird. It looks wrong. Why are you eating that?" And I looked down again, and the smile left my face. I started to feel ashamed. I thought, am I missing something here? What am I not seeing? Is there something wrong? I went back to my mom that day after school, and I told her what happened, and I asked her, why did this happen to me? Did I do something wrong? And I'll never forget what she told me. She said that when people are faced with something new, something they've never seen before, they're going to react with coldness. They're going to react with disgust. And for us, people who have something unique about them, something different, we can do 2 things about it. We can, 1, choose to just do nothing and hope that over decades of just grinding it out, things can change on their own. Or we can choose to do something about it, to make our personal mission. And I related to that. I thought maybe this could be my way to change things, to make my mark. I read a lot of Percy Jackson growing up. Maybe I thought of myself as one of those characters. And I remember for the next year of my life, I carried myself with that passion. I remember going to school, I had this anger within me. Every stare I got, every look, every sneer, I treated it as an attack on my skin. I thought every chance I got to tell people I'm a proud son of immigrants. I'm a proud vegetarian. I thought this is my way, I'm going to change the world. This is the way I make my mark on history. Well, a year went on, and nothing really happened. I mean, I had the passion, I had the emotions, but I wasn't really doing anything. I ended up going to school, getting pissed off, coming back home, rinse and repeat. So I realized, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. I was thinking about change in the wrong way. To give a metaphor, is change the meteor that falls from the sky and instantly destroys everything? Or is change sand that builds up slowly, incrementally, over decades, even centuries, and forms the islands, continents, everything we see before us today? I had thought about change as an instant way to change things as they were, to make an impact. But I'd forgotten and not thought about that change is long-term. It's not large actions, it's small actions, in and of themselves meaningless. But only through consistency and a commitment to change could you actually accomplish something. And can you blame me for not thinking about that? As kids, with those wide, innocent eyes, how many of us have thought, with a snap of our fingers, we could change the world? Equality could be created, war could be destroyed. Change is a lot more micro. Change is not a macro concept. So I realized maybe I should change my perspective. Think about making small actions in the hopes that one day I could accomplish something larger than I had ever imagined. So I remember, I went to school and I changed. Blind anger turned into education, telling people what part of India my food came from, the story behind it, my family who lived there, my mom made it for me today. I visited that place a couple years ago, telling the story, making them see the why behind what my culture is. Why do I feel that power? Why do I feel that fire, that ferocity to tell my story, to feel connected? Well, initially, this didn't really accomplish much, but I continued with it. I thought this is the way I can make my mark. This is the way I can play my role, play my part in changing the story. The culminating part in this chapter was me and my friend went to an Indian restaurant. And as we sat down, as we were eating, I remember I was doing the same thing I'd always done. I was explaining the food, explaining the culture. But something was different about that time, and I'll never forget it. As we were eating, I saw this light go off in his head. He was starting to realize something. He was starting to see the why behind what I was saying. He realized that he may not have grown up in my culture. He may not have grown up experiencing the life that I've lived. But he could understand how someone could experience that, have that respect, have that intensity to try and preserve it, to make that a part of their lives, and to share their story. As a society, if we define ourselves by what we grew up with, what we've lived, we're not really evolving, are we? We're not exploring the unknown. It's only by doing that, forcing ourselves to embrace that awkwardness, that unexpectedness that is something we've never experienced before, can we actually evolve and develop. And that story, that motivation, carries through to today. Through social media, I found a way to make my mark, to share my story. Sharing food that I grew up eating, food that I made yesterday. I'm telling my story in a way only I could, through food. And even today, when I go out to restaurants, I look around. Do I see people who all look the same? People from all walks, the same walk of life? No. I see diversity. I see people from every walk of life, people from all backgrounds. And that gives me the most hope. As a society, evolving to explore the unknown is the only way we're going to grow and develop as people. And that gives me the most hope that we're beginning to do that. We're beginning to see that living the lives we've lived only by our past and not exploring the future, we're not really growing. We're not going to experience the diversity that is everyone in this room and everyone around the world. This was my story. It all started with a kid who just wanted to make breakfast for his mom. And I mean, who could have thought that such a simple action could one day blossom into a lifelong appreciation of food, a respect for preserving one's culture and wanting to share it to the world, and even redefining change and understanding the larger-than-life nature of it, and how we can all impact as many people as possible. But speaking more broadly, if we as a society can agree that we should strive, we should push ourselves to not settle for the life we've lived, but the vastness that what exists out there in the world, and push ourselves to strive and explore, we're going to grow as people and diversify, and we're going to be all the better for it. Thank you.